Alright, we are back with Nightshade. You're the drug. Lego. The afternoon sun beat down on the old playground and laughter echoed through the clearing. A group of rowdy kids elbowed each other to get to the monkey bars, sprinting past the swings where one boy sat alone. His hair was scruffy and brown, and the tips of his shoes could barely touch the ground as they scored the sand beneath him. The rough crunch of dirt grew louder as another child ran up to the lone boy. "You're new?" The boy's low gaze fixed on a pair of tennis shoes standing in front of him. He looked up. "I've never seen you before, and I'm here, like, every day." At a breath from the drag over, the kid gasped the words between his panting. "I just moved here." He looked back down, his fingers fumbled with the chains of the swing. "That checks out." "Why are you just sitting here?" The boy shrugged and watched his foot draw circles in the sand below. "Sasha, we're playing chicken. You're on my team." Sasha turned his head and yelled back, "In a minute." Instead of joining the other kids, he walked over and sat on the swing next to the quiet boy, who now watched him with confusion. "I think your friends want to play." So? What's your name?" "Mine's Sasha." "Mikhail?" His voice was a little more than a mumble. "So, Mishka, right?" "Mikhail. Do you know how to swing? Why are you just sitting here?" Mishka only shrugged again. "You don't really talk much, do you?" Sasha pursed his lips and began drumming his hands on his thighs, looking slowly around the playground. "Wanna come play on the monkey bars?" "I don't know how." "It's easy." Hopping off the swing, Sasha motioned for the kid to follow him. Mishka reluctantly slid off his swing before adjusting his sweater sleeves to cover his hands. He followed. "Sasha, we can't play chicken with uneven numbers." "We're not playing chicken. Mishka doesn't know how to climb the monkey bars." "Who's Mishka?" Sasha pointed at the kid who had already looked back down at his feet. "I'm teaching him how to use the monkey bars, so move over." Not waiting for them to move, Sasha started climbing up the metal ladder on the side. The others jumped to the playground in showy fashions before dusting themselves off and leaving to find something else to leap from. "I'm really good at this, so just do exactly what I do. Come over here and just try to hang on them." Sasha reached up and hung from one of the bars while facing his new friend so he could watch him try. Mishka watched the other kids leave before following Sasha up the ladder and grabbing a bar himself. "Good. Okay. Now try to pull yourself up." Before he could finish, Mishka had already climbed the top of the monkey bars with ease. He turned to sit with his legs dangling off the side. "Well, that's still beginner stuff anyway." Sasha hoisted himself up to join the quiet boy who was biting his lips to hold back a smile. "The next level is hanging upside down. It makes you look like a bat. It's super dangerous." Sasha confidently spun around and hooked his legs over the side of the monkey bars before letting himself fall backward. His face quickly began to flush from all the blood rushing to his head. "See? If you fall, you'd probably break your neck. But if you do fall, you have to tuck and roll." Despite Sasha's very ominous and very accurate warning, Mishka did exactly what he saw his new friend do. As soon as he was upside down, his shirt began to fall. He shot out a hand to pin it to his stomach. "You said you didn't know how." "I didn't." "It's probably because I'm a good teacher then?" Sasha laughed, feeling a little lightheaded from dangling there. After a few seconds, Mishka joined in with a timid smile. "Okay, well, next you have to flip off. So put your legs like this." Wah! In the middle of his demonstration, Sasha's hand slipped. Before Mishka could react, the other boy had fallen to the dirt below. "Sasha?" Mishka effortlessly slipped off the monkey bars and crouched next to Sasha. Luckily, the other boy's neck was not, in fact, broken. Sasha sat up with his hand covering the side of his face. His expression twisted into a frustrated pout. "Ow. Whoops, didn't mean that." "You didn't tuck and roll." And he pulled his hand away. There was a smudge of blood on his palm. "You're bleeding." There was a throbbing pain in Sasha's left brow. It stung where he touched it. "This never happens." His eyes started to water as he defended himself, but he wouldn't let himself cry. "I have bandages at my house." After helping pull Sasha off the ground, Mishka tugged him towards the sidewalk. "I'm serious, this never happens." Sasha followed Mishka across the street and inside the apartment building he had never been in before. Aww. Mishka opened the door to his apartment and flicked the hall light on. Sasha followed him in. "You live really close." "I'm gonna get the med kit." Once he'd run off the stairs, Sasha took the opportunity to quietly snoop around the house. The room echoed with his footsteps, since there was almost nothing to absorb the sound aside from a sofa and dining table. It just looked like a move-in ready apartment. Making his way to the kitchen, Sasha walked up to the fridge and opened the freezer in hopes of finding ice for his cut. There was no ice. There wasn't anything. Curious, Sasha opened the fridge door. It was just as empty except for some milk, cheese, and a few protein drinks. Mishka came running back down the stairs, peering around in confusion before realizing his friend must have wandered off to the kitchen. I have the bandages. What are you looking for? You have, like, nothing to eat. Did you move in today? He shut the fridge and turned to Mishka, who shook his head. Sasha didn't question further while he watched Mishka open the kit and pull out a cotton ball peroxide and adhesive bandage. He grabbed the cotton ball and went to rinse it in the sink. Dabbing gently at his cut, the cool water offered much relief to the burning wound. We need disinfectant first. No, that stuff stinks. Just give me a bandage. Mishka hesitated at first, but eventually handed it over. Sasha, I don't know that word, slapped it on, adjusting it a few times so it didn't stick his eyelids shut. Let's go to my house. We have snacks and stuff. Mishka played with the bottom of his shirt, looking down. Just for a little while, it'll be fine. The casual reassurance was enough to convince Mishka. He nodded. With the afternoon easing into dusk, both boys walked down the street and around the corner of Sasha's apartment building. Once inside, Sasha kicked the shoes off and left them at the entry rug before turning to walk into the kitchen. Mishka watched him quietly and took his shoes off as well, leaving them beside Sasha's. The kitchen was small, but every inch of the counter space had something in it. Bread, cooking spoons, chip bags, nuts, a mixer, and a bit of everything, really. In a practiced fashion, Sasha grabbed a few bags, shoved the licorice rope in his mouth, and pulled a box of pre-made sandwiches from the fridge. Taking that as permission to follow, Mishka plopped himself down on the living room floor to Sasha. The other boy spread out his collection of goodies. Sasha pulled the licorice against his teeth until a large piece snapped off. He offered it to Mishka. Hold on, guys. Alright. Here, try these. As Sasha smacked away, Mishka took a small bite, which turned into a few bites until the stick was gone. The watermelon ones are my favorite, but the cherry one's okay too. Do you like Dragon Lad? I had the first and second games. I'm almost done unlocking all the different levels. I've never played it before. It's so fun. Here, I'll show you. There's this one level where you're flying through a volcano, and Sasha continued talking as he booted up the game system. Mishka pulled his legs in and watched the screen. The front door opened once more. Sasha, you here? Sasha yelled back. Living room. His mom made her way around the corner. She smiled at the boys while she began undoing her earrings. I thought I heard two voices in here. Who's your new friend? This is Mishka. He just moved here. Mishka pulled his legs in tighter. Well, hi Mishka. Are you staying with us for dinner? Unsure how to answer, Mishka timidly shrugged. I'll just make a whole pot anyways. Oh, Sasha? She stopped to pull a handful of colorful packages from her bag, giving them a gentle toss onto the carpet. Sasha's eyes lit up as he raced over to scoop them all up. My cheetah gum! Don't forget to share it. Sasha turned to share his gum, but there was no one there. He looked around. Mishka? He stood up and walked to the kitchen to see if Mishka had slipped inside while he wasn't looking. It was just his mom setting a pot on the stove. Mom, have you seen Mishka? Sasha frowned. Mom? What's going on? The smell of rubbing alcohol. It was so bright.
Will only take a minute. After that, we can send him back.
No! That's enough! You stay out of that room, Dima!
I need you to calm down, Pav. Any information he may have could help us lead to Mishka. We need... Hasn't he been through enough? We have other things we need to focus on right now. Ooh. I know you're upset, but the recall we have to wait. This is more important. If he saw something, then we need to know. Every second counts, Pav. I said you're not going in there. Give him some space for Christ's sake. Excuse me. I can't believe this. Sasha's fingers twitched gently in the muffled argument outside the room seemed to have quieted down. The door opened and caught Sasha's attention. He turned his head as best as he could and he watched as the man in the white coat approached him. The doctor glanced down at his clipboard and then back up at Sasha. How are you feeling, Alexander? Sasha shook his head and groaned in protest. Sasha. Sasha it is. I always prefer shorthand anyway. My name is Dr. Sexy. Sexy? Sexy. Oh, wow. I'm just coming in to check on ya. Let you know what we're doing. Looks like your vitals are a bit better from last night, so that's good. Sasha tilted his head up to see the ECG machine beeping nearby. Every inch of his body ached. He weakly tried to shift beneath the layers of blankets piled on top of him and grimaced. It hurts a lot. I bet. You got some bruising, a concussion, and a sprained wrist. You also had a tiny bit of internal bleeding, but don't worry, we fixed you right up and you're good as new. Well, maybe not as good as new, but we certainly have no concerns about your recovery. Where am I? All he could see outside his window was the tip of the Struxa Tower. You're in Struxa's private hospital right at the heart of the HQ. In your condition, there's no place you'd rather be than here, trust me. Glancing back down at his chart, the doctor patted the railing on the side of the bed. We'll get you some of the painkillers and keep you a little longer for observation just to make sure that concussion's under wraps. Need anything? Sasha shook his head and stared at his feet. The pit of his stomach felt hollow and empty. The nausea threatened at the back of his jaw. The doctor looked away and sighed softly. Just then, the sliding door to Sasha's room opened again. This time, a larger man with navy hair and an eye patch walked in. Ah, good afternoon,
Hey.
Dima. Good afternoon. Am I interrupting? Dima drew near and stood at the end of the bed, eyeing Sasha, not waiting for the doctor's response. Ah, no. I was just telling Sasha here to rest up in a stress-free environment. No stress, Dima. None. No stress. The doctor raised his eyebrows with a feigned smile and stared knowingly at Dima a little longer than was comfortable. Dima gave a soft laugh and nodded. Alright. No stress. Scout's honor. As if you were ever a scout. Turning back to Sasha, the doctor patted his foot gently. Take it easy, Sasha, and make use of the call button if you need anything. Sasha watched the two, the pain in his head throbbing. He sighed and watched the doctor walk out of his room, leaving him alone with the other man. Once the door clicked shut, Sasha looked down towards Dima, who was still standing at the end of the bed. Dima sighed and pulled up a chair. Sitting in it at the bedside, he sat down and leaned on his knees.
Seriously?
How am I feeling? Are you serious? Dima looked away. Look, I feel like shit. I don't even know where I'm at. Sasha gasped, pain shooting through his ribs. I don't know where I am, or where my friend is, or... His fist balled into the fabric of the bed sheet and gripped them tightly. Who are you, even? Who were those people? Where's Mishka? The ECG monitor began to beep faster, and Sasha's neck felt hot and tingly. His breathing was heavy and tension, and his brows made his headache even worse.
Sasha.
That's just me moving the chair. Please calm down. Sasha scoffed and tore his gaze away from the man. He stared at the far wall instead, his knuckles still clenched tight. I want to help you, I do. I also need any information you have about that night. There's only so much I can do with little information we currently have. You didn't answer my question. Who are you? Dima pinched the bridge of his nose and shook his head. You don't need to know me to tell me what happened. I don't know what happened. What's going on? His anger was rising despite the pain. He was sitting in a hospital room, completely alone, the last thing he could remember. Excuse me. Look, Sasha, if you could tell me anything about what you remember from last night, we'll have a better chance of finding Mishka. So he's still alive? Does that mean you know who took Mishka? Dima's brows furrowed as he let out a sigh. Sasha, there's no time for this. I need to know what you remember. I don't remember anything. Sasha looked away, lifting his bandaged hand to rub his nose. The rough motion made it sting. It just annoyed him further. You don't remember anything? Dima, was it? How do you even know Mishka? The moment his friend's name left his lips, Sasha felt a lump from his throat. His gaze dropped to his hand while they fumbled the sheet. I just need whatever info. Dima exhaled roughly with a scowl, but when he looked up and stared at Sasha for a few minutes, his features softened. He works for me. That's why I need to find him. Accuse him. I'm a prying for info. What kind of work? Dima tilted his head ever so slightly and eyed Sasha for a moment. His fingers steepled and pressed to his lip. What? Mishka never told you? Obviously not. Why would I ask if I knew? Do I even want to know? I run a company that deals in trade, favors, and protection for the city. Mishka is an employee here. Sounds like a shady-ass company to me. This brat. I don't remember what happened, so I can't help you. Oh, then we'll give you another day to rest, and I'll ask again tomorrow. Sasha's head went back up to Dima. Wait, you mean I have to stay here? You don't have to do anything, but the people who took Mishka know your face, and this is the safest place to be right now. It's in your best interest. Now, if you want to leave this hospital room, there's an apartment prepared for you on the upper floors. Sasha gazed at the tall man for a moment before begrudgingly nodding. He didn't want to stay another minute in this room. And I'll have a change of clothes brought up. Meet me in the hall when you're ready. Sasha said nothing while the man stood from the chair and made his way out the room. I want to go home. Mishka, where are you? Sasha stepped out of the hospital room, clutching a bag with his old clothes and shoes stuffed inside, wet, bloody, and a bit ripped. They were in no condition to be worn. Instead, he had put on the outfit Dima had sent up to his room. Good, I'm glad everything fits. You ready? Whatever. Everything hurt when he walked, even his feet. Sasha grimaced as he followed the man down the hall and into the elevator, not even trying to take in any of the surroundings. He just stared down at the plain pair of shoes he had been given. Dima stood silently next to him, and after that he had stepped out of the elevator, guided Sasha down the hall until they arrived outside whatever looked like a hotel room. This will be your room. We've updated the permissions on your C card. It will work for the door and for getting food from the cafeteria. All the other necessities are already in the room. Okay. You can order room service if you'd like. Dima attempted a smile, but it dissolved as he watched Sasha walk defeatedly into the apartment and close the door behind him.
Good night, Sasha.
Sasha stood unmoving in the foyer. He dropped his bag of tattered clothing to the floor, staring ahead blankly. He was alone again. Sasha's arms hung heavy at his sides. The stillness of the apartment felt surreal. Even with the lights off, it was easy to see. Everything was bathed in a gentle white radiance from the moonlight spilling in through the large window. The room was immaculate compared to his downtown studio apartment. The kitchen was easily 3 times the size of his own. He frowned. Jesus, this is so massive. Sasha looked down at his feet, staring at the shoes Dima had given him. He then glanced over at the sneakers by the door, the ones he had worn that night. His chest grew tighter the longer he stared. Finally, he just kicked the plain shoes off. Putting the thought out of his mind, Sasha padded slowly across the cold tile. His footsteps were light despite how heavy his body felt. He pushed the sliding door open, revealing the bedroom. The sight of the large bed made Sasha's body feel even heavier. His legs moved on their own, carrying him over to the bed, where he flopped down. He didn't even bother crawling beneath the covers, simply curled up on top of them. Sasha closed his eyes, hoping he'd fall asleep quickly, but he didn't. Behind closed lids, Sasha imagined being in his room on his cheap bed. The sound of his TV would be playing in the background, and Mishka would be sitting at the foot of his bed, scrolling through his phone. He was always there, whether Sasha texted him to come over or not. Instinctively, his hand began searching for his phone. He didn't feel anything. Sasha's eyes shot open, and he lifted his head to look around. Fuck, where's my phone? Is there anything else this universe wants to take from me? Deep down, he already knew it was back in the alley. He laid his head back down on the pillow. He'd give Mishka a million keys to his apartment if it meant not feeling like this. Feelings of sadness, fear, and confusion were rushing in, and his heart began to race. Tears blurred his vision, and a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions overwhelmed him. He curled up tighter. Stifled sobs broke the silence of the apartment and continued long into the night. Oh, poor Sasha. A small groan of pain fell from Mishka's lips as he gradually became conscious. His body ached. He tried to move, but he felt the cold bite of restraints at his wrist. Sasha. He can't see. Darkness surrounded him, and the feeling of fabric against his face was a quick indication of just what kind of predicament he was in. He grimaced and began to struggle, testing the strength of the rope tied around his body. I wouldn't do that if I were you. You still have a pretty big gash on your side there. That was not a voice he recognized. Mishka scowled and turned his head toward the speaker. How about you come over here and take this bag off? Sorry, I'm not allowed to fraternize with prisoners. Only keep watch. I'll let the boss know you're awake. Again, try not to struggle too much. You'll bleed all over the floor, and then I'll have to clean it up. Metal chair legs scraped harshly against the concrete floor as the man stood up and walked away. Mishka swiveled his head, following the direction of the noise. He heard the hollow clang of a large metal door slamming shut. Then nothing. He knew he was alone. God damn it, Sasha. I hope you're okay. Several painfully slow minutes passed by in silence. Mishka slowly flexed his fingers, gripping the edges of the cuffs that bound his arms behind him. Rope tightly secured his ankles to the legs of the chair beneath him. He yanked at the bonds, trying to loosen their hold. Still, nothing budged. Suddenly, the door swung
There
open.
he is.
Abruptly, the fabric on his head was ripped off and tossed to the ground. The light in the room was damn near blinding. Mishka squinted against the glare, head falling forward to shield
How
his eyes.
nice of you to finally join us. Did you sleep well?
The man who had just entered stopped in front of Mishka, his lips upturned in a thin smile. A slim man dressed in black hovered beside him, like a guard dog waiting for any signs of trouble. You wanted to see me so badly, all you had to do was ask, nicely and on your knees. He sneered. Blood was smeared at the corners of his mouth and stained his shirt, spreading across the fabric around the stab wound like spilled ink. Every move he made sent a spike of pain radiating out from the deep gash. Good. I was worried you wouldn't be able to talk. What with you being gutted and all, I'll have to thank Ada for that. Leaving you in such great condition. Mishka gave a wide, fake smile, his teeth flashing sharply in the bright light. Thanks for your concern. I'm touched. So what's the occasion? Birthday party? Wedding? Roman's eyes narrowed slightly and his smile unmoving. You're a busy man, Mishka. Think of this as a well-deserved unpaid vacation. How generous of you. Or you're wasting your time, Roman. You know how it goes. I'd rather die than give you information. Blah, blah, blah. Ida sighed under his breath. You think I brought you here for information? There's nothing you have that I need. Then why did your pet over there stab me and drag me here? Why the fuck around? Why fuck around like this and keep me alive? No need to be eager to die. Live bait always works better. And you really think that will distract Dima? His hands twisted behind the chair, trying to slide out the cuffs. From what? What is he doing? You ask a lot of questions for someone with one foot in the grave. Besides, you're Dima's favorite. He'd do just about anything to get you back. Jealous? I've heard about your little love story. Ida's brows furrowed as he looked away. Roman tilted his head and stared in silence. Quietly, he reached back and placed a hand on Ida's thigh. He slid his fingers along the other man's legs before suddenly unsheathing the knife hidden there. He turned back to Mishka, twisting and turning the blade under the light, observing how the light gleamed off the sharp edge. Going to give me a scar to match the one I gave you? Without warning, the knife ruthlessly swiped across Mishka's face, and blood sprayed the far wall. Ugh. Mishka cried out and bowed his head, snarling. Good idea. Roman held the knife out to Ida, cold eyes watching Mishka writhe in agony. Ida took the knife and, after flicking the blood off the end of the blade, slid it back in the thigh holster. The moment you are no longer useful, I will have you killed. You and your little friend from the club. Mishka's heart skipped a beat, eyes wide. He whipped his head up, face throbbing in pain. He winced. What are you talking about? A smile returned to Roman's face, and he glanced back at Ida, briefly exchanging looks. Ida told me about your friend Sasha, was it? Mishka glanced between them. His breathing had grown heavier, chest tight with rising panic. He struggled harder against his restraints, desperate to break free. Roman, he has nothing to do with this. Oh, but I think he has everything to do with you, Mishka. No. No, leave him out of it. Don't. Don't bring him into this. You already did, remember? Roman pulled a phone from his pocket and unlocked the screen. So many missed calls until he finally picked up. Just look at these text messages. Roman chuckled, his thumb browsing nonchalantly. Let me come over tonight. We were just here to chill out. Just give me a key. We're practically married anyways. I filed for a divorce. Roman's laugh made Mishka's stomach twist in knots. These are pitiful, Mishka. Fuck off. Blood dripped down Mishka's cheek and a few drops fell to the ground as he lurched forward, lunging toward Roman. Face twisted in rage. The chair shook but held firm. Look at you, all worked up over a boy who doesn't even like you. Roman. Roman slipped the phone back into his pocket and turned to leave. Placing his hand on the door handle, he paused and looked over his shoulder. There's only a thin line between obsession and insanity, Mishka, and the way you jump through hoops for even a scrap of his attention is pathetic. Ida's gaze flickered toward Roman, glancing up at the other man from where he stood, close at his side. After a moment, he lowered his eyes back to the ground. Roman opened the steel door. Try not to bleed out. The door slammed behind them, the sound echoing through the empty cell. Heavy shaking breath dissolved in quiet sobs. Mishka slumped in the chair, hands falling limp. Hot, wet tears streamed down his face, mixing with blood, and fell to concrete below. Sasha. Agony gripped his chest like a bind Wow. Agony gripped his chest like a bind around his heart. The pain of his wounds was nothing compared to this. I'm so sorry. Mishka's vision blurred with tears. I'm so selfish. I'm so selfish. Sasha's eyes ached, his head pounded, waves of pain beating against the inside of his skull. He hadn't crawled out of bed since he had arrived and had no intention to. Several times during the night he had woken up only to stare at the clock that didn't seem to move. It was the longest midnight he could ever remember. Sasha had never wanted to sleep so badly, but his body kept denying him. At least he was able to slip into the shallow naps after his eyes grew tired of crying. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
Hello?
I know you're in there. You literally haven't left this room, so there's nowhere else you could be. Sasha jolted awake with a sharp gasp at the loud banging, his heart raced in his chest. He lifted his head, red eyes narrowed as he tried to process the sudden noise. Hello? No, Tulip, he's definitely a cat person. Just give him a minute. What in the... Crawling slowly out from his cocoon of sheets, Sasha stumbled to his feet and into the living room. Every shuffling step sent twinges of pain through his heavy limbs. Sasha approached the front door, leaning close to the lookout of the people. We're gonna cut it there, folks. Thanks for listening.